Hey everybody, how are y'all doing? It's Crystal. I was trying to get a view of the lake, so here I am. I'm supposed to be standing up, so let me go ahead and get Facebook started. I waited so late, it's gonna get dark. Hey, welcome. It's Crystal. I'm trying to give you a view of the lake. Okay, Facebook let me know that they're live, so I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. Today's scripture is going to be about sores. I think we should hurry up and do this because I'm losing light. So, hey. I just wanted to share the scenery with y'all before it gets too dark. I'm thinking I'm going to just go ahead and get started. Since we have music in the background. Also, this is a difficult position for me to sit in, but I may stand. I'm supposed to be standing. Okay. Bring y'all closer. Nobody's going to want to hear this message because this one's about sores. Okay, serious skin diseases. Y'all ready? Today we'll be reading from Leviticus chapter 13 of the NLT version of the Holy Bible. It is 7/11/2020. It's 8:26 p.m. Let me come close, man. This is hard. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, if anyone has a swelling or a rash or discolored skin that might develop into a serious skin disease, that person must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons. The priest will examine the affected area of the skin. This is very long, y'all. If the hair in the affected area has turned white and the problem appears to be more than skin deep, it is a serious skin disease, and the priest who examines it must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean. But if the affected area of the skin is only a white discoloration and does not appear to be more than skin deep, and if the hair on the spot has not turned white, the priest will quarantine that person for 7 days. So here we're talking about quarantining. On the 7th day, the priest will make another examination. If he finds the affected area has not changed and the problem has not spread on the skin, the priest will quarantine the person for 7 more days. On the 7th day, the priest will make another examination. So if he finds the affected area has faded and not spread, that person will be pronounced ceremonially clean. It was only a rash. The person's clothing must be washed, and the person will be declared ceremonially clean. But the rash is going to continue to spread after the person has been examined by the priest. The person is pronounced clean, but the infected person must return and be examined again. So we're talking about a rash in this case. If the priest finds that the rash has spread, he must be pronounced ceremonially unclean, for it is indeed a skin disease. Anyone who develops a serious skin disease must go to the priest for examination. So nowadays we go to doctors. If the priest finds a white swelling on the skin, I think they're looking for leprosy here. What I say, unclean. If the priest finds a white swelling on the skin and some hair on the spot has turned white and there is an open sore in the affected area, it's a chronic skin disease, and the priest must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean. In such cases, the person need not be quarantined, for it is obvious that the skin is defiled by the disease. Now suppose the disease has spread all over the person's skin, covering the person from head to foot. Then the priest examines this infected person and finds the disease has covered the entire body. He will pronounce the person ceremonially clean. Since the skin has turned completely white, the person is clean. But if any open sores appear, the affected person will be pronounced ceremonially unclean. The priest must then make the pronouncement as soon as he sees an open sore, since the open sore indicates the person has a skin disease. However, if the open sores heal and turn white-like and the rest of the skin, then The person must return to the priest for another examination. If the affected areas have indeed turned white, the priest will then pronounce the person ceremonially clean and by declaring you are clean. If anyone finds a boil on the skin that has started to heal, but a white swelling on a reddish-white spot develops in its place, that person must go to the priest and be examined. If the priest examines it and finds it to be more than skin deep, and if the hair in the affected area has turned white, the priest must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean. The boil has become a serious skin disease, but if the priest finds no white hair on the affected area and the problem appears to be no more than skin deep and has faded, the priest will quarantine that person for 7 days again. If during that time the affected area has begun to spread, the priest will pronounce the person ceremonially unclean because it's a serious skin disease. But if the area grows no larger and doesn't spread, it's merely a scar from the boil, and the priest will pronounce that person ceremoniously clean. Verse 24, if anyone has suffered a burn on the skin and the burn changes color, becoming either reddish or shiny white, the priest must examine it. If he finds the hair in the affected area has turned white and the problem appears to be more than skin deep, the skin disease has broken out in the burn. The priest must pronounce that person ceremoniously unclean, for it is a serious skin disease. But if the priest finds no white hair on the affected area and the problem appears to be more than skin deep has faded, the priest will quarantine the person for 7 days. I hear the word quarantine, for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest will examine the person again, and if the affected area has spread on the skin, the person is still they're pronounced ceremonially unclean, for it is a serious skin disease. But if the affected area has not changed or spread and has faded, it's simply a swelling of the burn. The priest will then pronounce the person ceremonially clean, for it is only a scar from that burn. Verse 29. If anyone, either man or woman, has a sore on the head or the chin, the priest must examine it. If he finds it's more than skin deep and he finds yellow hair in it, the priest must pronounce that person ceremonially unclean. It is a scabby sore of the head or chin. If the priest examines the scabby sore and finds that it's only skin deep, but there's no black hair on it, he must quarantine that person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest will examine that sore again. And if he finds the scabby sore hasn't spread and there's no yellow hair in it and appears only to be skin deep, the person must shave off all that hair except the hair in that affected area. The priest will quarantine the person for another 7 days. You hear about quarantining? Well, it's done here in the Bible. On the 7th day, he will examine that sore again. If it's not spread, it's no more than skin deep, the priest will pronounce that person ceremonially clean. The person's clothing must be washed, and that person is clean. But if the scabby sore begins to spread, the person is pronounced clean, the priest will do another examination. So if he finds that the sore is spread, the priest does not look for a yellow hair. The affected person is unclean. It does not need to look for yellow hair. But the color of the scabby sore does not change. The black hair has grown on it, is healed. The priest will then pronounce the person ceremonially clean. If anyone, man or woman, has a shiny white patch on their skin, the priest must examine that affected area. And if he finds the shiny white patch are only pale white, it is harmless. It's a skin rash and the person is clean. If a man loses his hair, almost done, on his head and becomes bald, he is ceremonially clean. And if he loses hair on his forehead, he simply has a bald forehead. He's still clean. However, if a reddish white sore appears on the bald area on top of his head or on his forehead, that is a skin disease. The priest must examine him, and if he finds swelling around the reddish white sore or anywhere on the man's head that looks like a skin disease, the man is indeed affected with a skin disease and is declared unclean. The priest must pronounce him ceremonially unclean because of the sore on the top of his head. Oh gosh, thought we were almost done. Okay, verse 45. Those who suffer from a serious skin disease must tear their clothing and leave their hair uncombed. They must cover their mouth and call out, unclean, unclean. As long as the serious disease lasts, they will be ceremonially unclean. They must live in isolation in their place outside the camp. Let's see if I can brighten this up. And put some light on me. Okay, treatment of contaminated clothing. Now suppose mildew contaminates some woolen or linen clothing, woolen or linen fabric, the hide of an animal, or anything anything made of leather. If it is contaminated area in the clothing, the animal hide, the fabric, or the leather article has turned greenish or reddish, it is contaminated with mildew, it must be shown to the priest. After examining the affected spot, the priest will put the article in quarantine, the article clothing now, in quarantine for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest must inspect it again. If the contamination has spread, the clothing or fabric or leather is clearly contaminated by serious mildew and is ceremonially unclean. The priest must burn the item, the clothing, the woolen or the linen fabric or piece of leather, for it has been contaminated by serious mildew. It is completely destroyed by fire. Okay, verse 53. But if the priest examines it and finds the contaminated area has not spread in the clothing, the fabric, or the leather, the priest will then order the object to be washed and quarantined for 7 more days. Then the priest will examine the object again. If he finds that it's contaminated and has not changed color after being washed, even if it did not spread, the object is defiled. It must be completely burned up, can't be saved, whether the contaminated spot is on the inside or the out. But if the priest examines it and finds that the area has faded after being washed, he must cut the spot from the clothing or fabric or leather, if it's that important. And if the spot later reappears in the clothing, the fabric, or the leather, the mildew is spreading, and the contaminated object must be burnt up, done away with. It is now waste. It must be washed again, then it will be ceremonially clean. These are the instructions for dealing with mildew that contaminates woolen or clothing or fabric or anything made of leather. This is how the priest will determine what is ceremonially clean or unclean. So when we're talking about mildew, I think that does conclude the reading of scripture for tonight. I hope y'all can see me and hear me. I was really trying to give y'all a view. I'm sorry I waited so late, but we got to finish this up. So I think we have people out here trying to make sure I'm okay. So listen, let's do our commentary and summarization portion, and I'm going to be out. This reminds me of how present day we have doctors. We don't go to our priest to be determined if we're clean or not. We usually go in for a private examination to our doctor if we find something, and he will let us know what it is. We will go to our priest for prayer, for touching and agreeing that we'll be healed. So the priest's job has changed these days. Whereas you can find a lot of information, you can look up symptoms. Sometimes you just blowing things. You don't have any idea. You're not a doctor what it is, so you will go and look up your problem and find out big or small, like what it is. And then if you need to, you will take your issue to a doctor for treatment. You will go to your priest and take your concerns. Not everybody will go to the priest for everything for privacy matters, but for some, big things where you need to touch and agree, you will go to your priest. I need to go ahead and close out this message. So let me go ahead and end. Thank you so much for watching. I see you present. I'm going to go back and review this video. So excited about it. Thank you. And look, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I got to close out before it closes me out. Bye. I love you.